Good morning, folks. This is Deb. And yeah, the first thing I want to do is wish you all a really happy Christmas, okay? Or happy holidays, depending upon what you celebrate and whether you celebrate or not, okay? Um, However, I wish I could say that that's the only reason I'm out here this morning, but that would be a lie. So I'm looking at, you know, essentially the first year under Donald Trump, and I'm thinking about how he got here. And I have to say that the most loathsome group of people ever to support Donald Trump are hands down women. They have enabled him. They voted for him in pretty big numbers. And while, I could take the high road and not talk about any of this, I refuse to do that because some things just absolutely have to be said. So let's start out with Nicki Minaj, okay? Because everybody's talking about this Nicki Minaj sudden love, the little heart thing uh, for Donald Trump and Turning Point USA and everything else as something new. Nicki Minaj has pretty much been in Donald Trump's court since 2016, okay? Nicki Minaj, by the way, as a female, her husband is a registered sex offender, okay? And her brother is a pedophile. These are all stories that are out there in the public view. This is not a lie. This is not made up. I will put them in the description of this video. Um, so it's, it only tracks that Nicki Minaj would be a supporter of one of the most loathsome men in U.S. history. Certainly an embarrassment and a stain, a black stain on this nation. Okay? Let's talk about some of the other women. Pam Bondi, who is breaking the law right now by hiding the Epstein files, and she's hiding the Epstein files to protect her president. It makes me sick to even use that term for him. To protect her president and his wealthy donors. He is all over the Epstein files. Okay, all over them. In fact, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel spent $1 million in overtime getting the FBI to scrub his name. Even before all of this happened, all of this stuff that's going on right now, back in the day when they were first talking about releasing the files. When they actually said they were going to release the files and they actually ran a campaign based on that. They spent all that overtime money, your tax dollars, scrubbing that beast's name, okay? Let's talk about Kristi Noem, who does his bidding at every turn. She is truly one of the most ugly women in America, okay? How about uh, our friend Susie Wild? You know, Susie and the Banshee. Susie is the Banshee, and her little interview with Vanity Fair, where she spilled the beans on Trump, but then just called it, young bachelors. Him and Epstein were young bachelors sowing their wild oats. Now, I believe that whole interview thing was a setup to make Donald Trump look benevolent. Not like any of this was a big deal. He was just a young guy getting his rocks off. But actually, that interview backfired on her, and I'm happy. I'm happy for that because she's a piece of trash too. Okay? How about all the female attorneys that have been enabling his criminal life? And how about all the women who voted for Donald Trump? A man who has zero respect for women and shows it every single day. He buried his freaking wife under his golf course. Okay? Is that done out of love, do you think? Or is it because it's freaking cheaper to keep her? Give me a break, folks. Women voting for Donald Trump, a man who has anywhere between 19 and 26 women accusing him of inappropriate sexual activity. Okay, they're all out there on the public record. All of the women victims of Jeffrey Epstein, as he lies and tells you he dumped him as soon as he was convicted. That was a lie. Donald Trump had Thanksgiving dinner with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017 while he was president of the United States. Okay? Donald Trump is all over the Epstein files. Okay? Donald Trump is an adjudicated rapist in the E. Jean Carroll case. An adjudicated rapist. And yet women somehow, I believe 53% of white women who voted in 2024 voted for Donald Trump. What was the purpose in that after he already took your bodily autonomy away and bragged about it? After he already overturned Roe v. Wade? You may not all have been in favor of abortion, but you don't have to have one. You're not here to tell other people how to live any more than the government is, by the way. We could just pretend that none of this ever happened and that nobody should ever be called out because we don't want to disenfranchise anybody. Donald Trump has disenfranchised the entire planet. And as a female, if he hasn't pissed you off by now, if he hasn't disgusted you with his every loathsome action, then there's something morally wrong with you. And maybe you ought to reassess yourselves this Christmas. This is just a commentary on his disregard for women. But there's any other number of things as a human being where he is a poor excuse for a human being. One woman I don't want to forget is Barry Weiss, who, quite frankly, was installed at CBS to protect Donald Trump and his criminal activity without any question. Barry Weiss, who has never run a TV network. Her sole qualification for the job is that she's a Trump bootlicker. And I'm a lesbian, but I don't care if Barry Weiss is a lesbian. Just because you are what you are, it doesn't make you a good person. Just because you're a woman doesn't make you a good person. Just because you're a lesbian, it doesn't make you a good person. She shut down a 60-minute segment about the truth of what's going on at CCOT to protect Donald Trump. That is when you know the mainstream media is dead in America. And you better wake up to that fact. If that's where you're getting most of your news, you're not getting most of your news. The world is full of two kinds of people right now: cowards and enablers. Anyone who pledges their fealty to Donald Trump is either a fascist or a coward who will not stand up. All the Republican Party falls into that bailiwick, okay? They'll talk privately about how they're disgusted with Donald Trump, about what he's done to destroy the party, but none of them will stand up because they're cowards. Goddamn cowards. Just like Hitler's henchmen were cowards, and they all grew to regret it at the end. And you know what? So will all of you who have supported Donald Trump. Merry Christmas.